Hey, boys and girls. Welcome to another episode of Economics Flipped. Today we're beginning our series on supply and demand, the market. Today we're going to look at demand. First thing we have to look at is the law of demand. All right, what the law of demand says, all other things being equal, ceteris paribus, shout out to Miss Lynch, as prices fall, the quantity demanded rises. So as things become cheaper for us, we start to buy more of those items. And as the price rises, we buy less of those items. Now, I'm sure you're looking at this and going, no kidding, Mr. Mooney, we know that, right? That makes sense to us. But what you want to look at is the two words quantity demanded. We're not talking about price falls and demand rises. We're talking about price falls, quantity demand rises, and as price rises, the quantity demanded falls. Okay, so you really want to focus on that. So what's the reason for this happening? Okay, the first reason is the law of diminishing marginal utility. Now, we've talked about marginal the other day, and marginal is extra. Utility is satisfaction. So when we say the law of diminishing extra satisfaction, as you buy more of the good, extra of the good, you get less satisfaction as you buy more and more. Therefore, we start to buy less. The second reason is the income and substitution effect. As prices rise, your real income begins to fall, so you buy less. As prices rise, you substitute other goods. So both of these reasons is why we have the inverse relationship. All right, don't ask Wells about the inverse relationship. I'll get in trouble for even saying that. Okay, so let's ask a couple of questions here. First thing I want you to do is think of an item that you would like to buy. Okay, question is, what is the price of that item? All right, the next question is, has the price stopped you from buying the item? And then the last question is, does the price change your desire for the good? So I'll give you an example for myself. I want to buy a G.I. Joe deep sea diver, not scuba, not the one with the tanks on the back. I want to buy the deep sea diver one. Okay, that one costs $75. All right, has that price stopped me from buying the item? Most certainly has. I am not paying $75 to add this G.I. Joe to my collection. All right? The last question says, though, does the price change your desire for the good? Absolutely not. I want the good. I want the deep sea G.I. Joe doll. I've been trying to get it forever. Right? But the quantity I'm willing to buy at $75 is zero. Okay, so one of the things we want to do here is let's keep the price constant for a second. Okay, so we're going to keep the 75 constant, and then we're going to say, if the price doesn't change, what's going to motivate you to buy more of the good at the same price? So how can we go from 0 G.I. Joe dolls to 1 G.I. Joe? Right, the price isn't changing, so it's still 75, so something other than price has to change. All right, so let's give you some information here. We're going to look at demand, and the first thing you want to know about demand is price does not affect demand. So the question is, so what does affect demand? Right? So the price of the G.I. Joe isn't affecting my desire. All right? So something has to change to get me to buy that G.I. Joe at $75. And we said the price is constant, so it can't be that. So let's look at a few things. Okay, we've come up with hashtag spice. If you remember in class, somebody asked me where hashtag spice came from. I'll give you the whole history of that. All right, so what ends up is we go with hashtag spice, which is an acronym. Hashtag stands for the number of buyers. Okay? If there are more buyers for a product, the demand will increase. Right? So all of a sudden, everybody wants this new hot item. The demand for it goes up. Okay? Again, nothing happening with the price of the item. Right? And then the opposite is also true. If there are less buyers for a product, the demand will decrease. Okay? Then we move on to the S, and S stands for the price of a substitute good. Okay, a substitute good is something like tea for coffee, right? If the price of coffee goes up, I will substitute it with tea. If the price of French fries goes up, I substitute it with tater tots. Okay, so if the price of a substitute good, let's say coffee, so if the price of coffee increases, the demand for the other good, let's say tea, will decrease. Will increase, excuse me. If the price of coffee goes up, the demand for tea goes up, right? Which also means if the price of coffee decreases, the demand for tea decreases because they are substitutes of the goods. So make a note somewhere that substitutes go in the same direction. So the price of coffee goes up, the demand for tea goes up because we're substituting them. Now I know you're going to say, you just told me price doesn't have anything to do with demand. It's not the price of tea that we're talking about. It's the price of coffee that affected the demand for tea. All right. Okay, the next one is taste or preference. Right? P stands for the preference or taste of the good. All right, now we'll go back to an example of mine growing up. I loved Chef Boyardee raviolis. I know it's a shock. Okay, I don't love them anymore, but I used to love them. But then as I got older, my palate matured and my taste or preference for Chef Boyardee raviolis changed. Okay, so but then I started to like fresh made raviolis, right? Fresh raviolis. So my demand for them increased, right? My taste changed. So now I prefer fresh raviolis. My demand, because my taste changed, the demand for Chef Boyardee raviolis decreased. Okay, because I became older and more mature, I no longer will eat food out of a can. Right? I won't even eat jarred sauce. Right? I'm so against that. Get a can of tomatoes, make your own sauce. Stop this jarred nonsense. All right, the next thing we want to look at is I, which stands for income. So I'll give you a quick little story here. I'm looking to buy the G.I. Joe doll this summer. I'm in the toy store, and I get a phone call, and it's Dr. Gitz. And he's like, hey, how you doing there, Mr. Mooney? I understand your AP grades were really good. He wants to give me a bonus, right? So he gives me a $5,000 bonus. What happens to my demand for G.I. Joe at $75? My demand increases, and I actually buy the G.I. Joe doll. Why? Because I have more money. So, as a person's income rises, the demand for the good will increase. Story gets bad after this, right? Turns out that he didn't read it properly. He went across and down, and it was really Mr. Moyal's great results that he was talking about. So he takes away my bonus, and he gives Mr. Moyal money from my paycheck. Okay, so my income decreases. I take the G.I. Joe doll, I throw it back on the shelf, and I leave disgusted from the store. Okay, so I don't buy it because my income went down. All right, the next one we want to look at is C, which stands for the price of a complimentary good. Okay, peanut butter and jelly are compliments. All right, coffee and half. One of my students said green tea and honey. Can't have green tea without the honey, Mr. Mooney. That's what I was told. Right, so here's what happens. If the price of a complimentary good increases, the demand for the other good will decrease. So let's take my student in class. He said honey and tea. Right, so the price of honey goes up. The demand for green tea goes down because you can't have green tea without honey. You understand me? Also, you can't have peanut butter without jelly. They complement each other. That's why they're called complementary goods. So if jelly is too expensive, my demand for peanut butter goes down. I'm not going to do it. And also, the opposite is true. If the price of jelly drops dramatically, I'm buying jars of peanut butter like they're going out of style. Okay, so a complementary good, you'll notice they go in opposite directions. If the price of jelly is going up, the demand for peanut butter is going down. So substitutes go in the same direction, complements go in opposite directions. And the last one, E. E stands for the expectation of future prices. If we expect prices to be higher in the future, right, our demand for the good will do what today? We'll buy more today because we think it's going to cost us more in the future, right? So if we expect the price of a good to be higher in the future, the demand for the good will increase today. I'm driving home. I hear on the news oil prices are skyrocketing. I know gas will be more money in 2 days. I pull in and get gas. Did I have a demand for gas today? I did not. But now I'm going to buy gas, so my demand went up because I expected the price to be higher. What if I think there's going to be a sale on G.I. Joe dolls? What do? I go and I buy. I don't buy them now. I wait a couple of days and I buy them when they're on sale. The demand, so when I know you're saying this, again, he brings up the price. I'm only bringing up the price, the expected price. We're not saying the price changed. We said we expect the price to change. So if I expect the price to be higher in the future, I buy more now. If I expect the price to be lower in the future, I buy less now. Okay? So that, we're not going to do any graphs on this. We're just going to look at this. So hashtag SPICE, these are all listed as non-price determinants, things other than price that determine demand. All of these things will get you to buy more or less at the same price. Okay, so tomorrow we will look into supply, and then after supply we are going to look into the market. We'll look at equilibrium. All right, have a good night, boys and girls.